Hi, everyone. So, my name is Sim, and I am very passionate about force. I'll just say one line about it. I believe that force is magic, and with this great power comes great responsibility. And my role is spreading this power of magic.
Exactly. Very good. Very good. So, inner source is easy, right? That's why we're all here. And at Mercedes Benz, we do things really well. Just gauging people's reactions there. Okay, we'll talk later, Gehring. So, we have it all figured out. Inner source is easy. At Mercedes, we've got it all figured out. We have a common inner source platform. Okay, two. That means Mercedes-Benz Enterprise IT is mostly on GitHub. Our R&D colleagues, Vehicle IT, are mainly on GitLab. And Vehicle IT has some very special prerequisites. They have requirements that are very strong with regards to safety, of course, and it's a very highly regulated industry. Some stuff is not open, like it's internal or secret even. So in the remainder of this talk, I'm going to talk about mainly enterprise IT, okay? Just to be clear. So we have an inner source process, which is wonderful. We have, okay, we'll talk. We have an inner source process. We have a inner source training specially dedicated for this purpose. We have a wiki platform that talks all about inner source and open source, but has a special inner source section. We have an inner source license. Lots of discussions about that back in the day, but it's there now. It works. We have the Mercedes-Benz FOSS Manifesto. If you haven't heard of that or don't know it, then I encourage you to take a look. Go to open source mercedes-benz.com, our open source landing page, and in the top right corner you'll find a link to it. And Peter Giese has mentioned their manifesto as well, and several other companies have one. And in our manifesto there are a few passages with regard to inner source. And we have consulting hours in our OSPO, our open source program office, which also caters to inner source, twice a week, so our engineers can come with their questions and ask if they have, if anything is unclear. So, and here is our latest inner source success story. This is actually really cool. So we have an internal time tracking system where every employee, this is now for Mercedes-Benz Tech Innovation specifically, so 2,500 people, a lot of engineers there. They have to, we record our working times. You start in the morning, you have this break, and you end your day at this time. And we recently, at the beginning of the year, we introduced a new system. It was completely revamped and introduced, and now everybody uses this system. And it wasn't working 100% well at first. And so people started complaining, and we should do something to fix it. So we came up with a suggestion, why don't you inner source it, and then people can work on it collaboratively. And that actually worked really nicely. So I just spoke to the colleagues from this time tracking tool 2 weeks ago, last week or 2 weeks ago, and they said, really nice. We're very grateful. We advised them how to do inner source, how to get all the prerequisites done, and how to work the magic. And they said, so we've gotten, I think, north of 50 contributions. They got code contributions and non-code contributions, issues for all kinds of areas. Also code contributions, that's obviously quite valuable, from 12 or 15 different people, not just one person, but from different people. So the team reported, it was additional effort that we had to put in for documentation and for onboarding and so forth, but it was well worth the time. And we, as the main team, we learned a lot because, again, that's what happens in open source as well. You engage with the community, and so in this case, an internal community, and so they got other engineers that came up with pull requests and code contributions. There was an interaction. So they said it was really worth it. So very good story. Now, here, why is it a success, this particular project? Because if you look for promising inner source projects, they tend to have these characteristics. So need to solve a common and widespread pain, not just developer pain, but in this case, it's everybody's pain or demand, and everybody uses it, 2,500 people. With company specifics, because if it's not company specific, you could just open source it. But this is an internal time tracking system that's completely uninteresting for the general public. And it needs to have a team that actually caters to that project and takes care of it. So you need to have one or better, at least 2 dedicated maintainers, and you need to do community management. So we did some articles in the internet, and we said, hey, everybody, now it's inner source, please help us, and so forth. So this is really nice, yeah? So, as I said, inner source is easy. We have it all figured out. Yeah, okay, but so still, so in general, we have some projects that are really nice, like this one, but in general, it's staying behind its expectations still. And why is that? I mean, if you look at it, you need to do some expectations management. It's not like we're doing inner source now. Every project is inner source, and every project gets contributions from everybody all over the place. And blah, blah, blah. So that's not how it works. And I mean, obviously, you know this. Open source projects are created for sharing from the beginning, usually, but inner source are usually tailored to very specific needs. And please notice that only about 2% of open source projects are considered successful. Yeah. With a skewed distribution, meaning the first 0.5% are usually more successful than the remaining 1.5%. Yeah. This is just an estimate. And remember that about 63.48% of all statistics are made up on the fly. And but the thing is, why should this be any different in inner source? It's not reasonable to expect that everything is inner source and is successful. So here are some big stumbling blocks. The time and availability of your engineers. Everybody's way too busy. They have to meet certain deadlines. I don't have the time to think about your problem. Sorry about that. I need to fulfill the numbers in my department. This is especially a management thing. Like if, my engineers are working over there, then I have bad numbers. They have good numbers, but I have to report up, my numbers. So that I don't really want to, hand them out to the engineers. So that's a problem. No tangible incentives. Sim will talk about that, and the lack of community management. But also, adding to these points, there seems to be a bit of a pain, and there seems to be some friction. Yeah. Whoops, wait. Here's a short video that we made. It's just like less than a minute. We used this for the announcement for this talk, so if you haven't seen it, here.
A lot of times when we ask our developers why they don't participate more in inner source, they say, I really like inner source, but sometimes it's just too painful. What? Too painful? Tell us all about it. And so
we asked our developers about the struggles that they are facing in our current inner source process. It wasn't just about tools or rules, but something deeper wasn't clicking. Some were aware, some were struggling, but some were living inner source.
On November 13th at the Inner Source Summit, we'll show you what we found on our inner source journey and how we're going about to remove the hassle so that the inner source is with us.
So, thanks. Handing over to Sim, we did this analysis, and she will tell you all about it. There you go. Here's the clicker.
Okay. So we saw all about our ideal inner source state, and also that something deeper wasn't clicking. Inner source adoption hadn't grown the way we expected. So what we did? We went deep. We wanted to not assume what the problems could be, but we went directly to the source. And what was the source? Our developers. We asked them, share with us what are the pain areas that you see in our current inner source process. And they did not hold back. So once we gathered everything, we sat down and categorized this feedback. Once we started this, we observed that there were some patterns. And when these patterns were repeating, it says that something is wrong with the system. From there on, we moved into action mapping. We started resolving things where we found the pain areas. Okay, do you all want to see what the feedback was about? But before that, this was it. So when you know the process needs a fixing, but you would rather be handling the sea monsters than dealing with the feedback. The amount of feedback that we got required time to handle. It was better to face the sea monsters than dealing with those. Okay, so these were the frictions that we identified. We had all the informations, the documentations, the trainings, everything was there. But all of this was scattered. Our developers had to put in extra effort to identify where to begin with. The overall process itself was overwhelming. Too many steps, too many touch points. The projects that deserve the spotlight was not getting it. Our organization embraces inner source and open source. But this enthusiasm, it fades down the hierarchy. The middle managers, they are focused on the delivery deadlines, not on the contribution. So what happens? The place where it matters the most, this momentum was lost. We did not have a feedback loop. So if something was not working, it stays that way. And in this case, it doesn't mean it is satisfaction, it's disengagement. We did not have a recognition model for our contributors. And most importantly, culture. Some teams, they prefer to keep the code within themselves or even contribute beyond their bubbles. They just prefer to be within that area. Okay, so now we identified what are the frictions, what are the pain areas. What is the next step? The next step was to identify why this pain is caused. Because a process is having some pain, it translates into human friction. And in our case, we identified 3 frictions that was holding our developers back. The first one, emotional friction. So this was about how our developers feel when they contribute. We heard things like, I have put in effort, but I have not received any recognition. Nobody sees my effort. Isn't it demotivating? If motivation is low, no amount of documentation can fix that. Next up is the cognitive friction. So this is the mental effort that is required to go through the process, understand things. So this is not inner source, it's inner stress, if you have to go through a lot of things. Next is about interactive friction. So barriers that hinder collaboration and communication between teams and individuals. So now we wanted to make a sense of what all this was. So we created some strategic moves, which was simple, scalable, and measurable. The first step was to map each of these frictions into actionable initiatives. We just did not want to define in things that we were not going to work upon. We wanted to have each of this having proper implementation framework, that each of these initiatives could be properly measured and held accountable, that yes, this is working and someone is already looking into it. And the most important was embedding a continuous feedback loop. Because inner source isn't a one-time initiative, it's a continuous process. And the most important thing that we realized was that we need to have a continuous feedback loop with our developers. If they are facing any kind of problems, we should be aware about it, and we should know ways how we can handle it. Spreading this magic of force is also about understanding, yes, is there a problem in that magic? How do I fix it? So let's now have a look at what we are doing. Let me be transparent. This is a journey. So some of these initiatives are in progress, some are in pilot, and some are in planning. We have launched various initiatives like New Joiners Awareness Session, where the new joiners are well informed about the process so they can be boarded early on. Now, when there are successful inner source projects, we give a shout out to them in the newsletters. We have social intra pages. And even during events, we tell about these successful inner source projects. Because if that particular team can work on an inner source project which is very successful, why not this team? So they get inspired too. Now we have force advocates from each and every department who push this topic within their teams, within their departments. And that's how we are handling that level of hierarchy where the momentum is lost. And we also held various events like Force Day events, which gives us a platform to promote inner source activities. So are we done? Not yet. The rule is simple. We gather the feedback, reanalyze it, improve it, and this process keeps going. We are solving the friction bit by bit, and we are reaching closer towards a smooth, efficient, and impactful developer experience. Next time when we see, we'll tell you about where we are and how far we have achieved. Over to you, Wolfgang.
Thank you. So, in summary, inner source is easy, but it's working in parts and for some projects, but we're not satisfied. So, there are some really good examples, but we're not satisfied with the overall adoption, and this is why we started this. We have also created metrics for open source adoption, but also for inner source to make it measurable and visible, because, management approaches us and says, inner source is not working, is it? I'm like, no, it's working. It's show me, And so, because as Daniel also says, sometimes, is if you don't have data, you're just a person with an opinion. And that's very true. And so we need the metrics to prove that, right? That's why we started with them. We analyzed our process framework, as Sim has pointed out, around inner source, and we asked the colleagues what their pains are, and they gave us the feedback. And now it's on us to implement the findings and make the changes. So we cannot present to you yet, and we have changed all of these things, and the outcome was this. We will do that next time, all right? But we're in the process of as Sim pointed out, some things we've already done, some things we're in the process of doing, and then hopefully we'll report next time so that we have more inner source and less inner stress. Thank you very much.